1, 0, all engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
It's Monday. It's Monday. It really is. 7 o'clock. And that can mean only one thing. It's time for Reading the Signs, where me, Comedy John Ryan, and my comedian pals from all over the world are going to be talking about comedy, well-being, why we do it, how we cope. And that's where we need your help. We need you to send us your top tips for well-being. Be part of the show. Drop a comment in the box on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on the mensradiostation.com website. It's going to be a great show, much better than last week. What we're trying to do is think exceptional, which, funnily enough, is the motto of WJ, our show sponsors. WJ are the UK's leading road marking and highway maintenance company. They're working with us, we're working with you. Let's get to it. It's Monday. Welcome, everybody. What a great start to the week. The studio's getting smaller. Do you notice the screens behind me are getting closer? I've got to cover my top up. How's your day been? What have you been doing today? Do let me know. Put your comments in the box in the booth. If you're listening to us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, then yeah, put your comments down there. Or if you're listening on the Men's Radio Station website, do just let us know. Let us know you're there. Let us know what's happening. What have you been up to today then? Anyone got any exciting gossip or anything exciting happened to anyone? I've had a great weekend. We went to Stratford-upon-Avon and recharged the old batteries. Who would have thought after 2 years of doing nothing, we'd need to do like more kind of, well, nothing really. It's all been really good. Great weekend. Really enjoyed it. But today, back to it. Grey day today, raining, or heaven, as I prefer to call it. Lovely day. Had a lovely day today. Did a brilliant interview this morning with Maria Kempinska, who has a show on Women's Radio Station, which was very, very good. I'll let you know when that's out and about. It's very strange for me to be on the other end of the interview and being asked questions, because I normally ask the questions. But yeah, quite probing, gave me a lot to think about. I want you to think about things that you've done and how they affect and influence you, and things you think you can do to help other people. That would be really, really good. So this week, big week. It's St. Patrick's Day on the 17th, which is a massive, massive day for the Irish expat community all around the world. And even if you're not, everyone's got a link to Ireland somewhere down the line. Don't worry about it. You've either met someone or you've been there or you've had a Guinness. Anyway, you can all celebrate. It's a very inclusive celebration. So we're going to kind of mention that a little bit later on. We're also going to be talking about everything that comes up. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask, then do please pop a comment in the box. We can, even if we get it next week, next month, or next year, no problem. So tonight's guest, what can I say? I'm chuffed to bits because it's one of my favourite comics. I've been recommending it all around the place for years because she's hilarious. She's a gas. Very, very intelligent, very, very funny. And it's an interesting time, I think, for the comedy circuit at the moment, because where once it was dominated by men, kind of over 40, middle classy, now we're getting a lot more voices from other communities, and it's about time too. But this comic would have succeeded in any generation that she was around in. Obviously not when she was like 4 or 5 years of age. Come on, give me a break now. But you get the idea. Very funny, very smart, very sassy. And so please do welcome with a classic Reading the Signs welcome to Aideen McQueen. That's you. It's yourself. You're on.
Hello. Hello. I can hear you perfectly. Yeah. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you do look a bit blurry and blurred. Either I've been on the drink a bit earlier than I thought, or your camera needs wiping. But it's your voice. That's the main thing.
Yeah, this camera now, it looks really well to me. This is the one I use to do my Irish language lessons, as I was telling you. So I thought it was okay. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah, I've given it a wipe there. I don't know if there's anything more I can do. I'm sorry about that.
Unless this is what you actually look like without the makeup. That could be the other thing.
I know, that's true. I'm not wearing makeup. I have one false eyelash on and one false eye. I just take it off there. I don't need it for the radio. John, you're not going to judge me because I have
Never judge.
the false eyelashes on. Yeah.
No, I've
So
not got my
munging
false
is one of the
eyelashes
days
on
where I
either.
don't. Yeah, you haven't had them on since you were born, darling. But anyway,
Well,
I can imagine maybe you did a charity event
no,
once
no.
where you had to wear false eyelashes. But
No.
yeah, no,
Do you-
it shouldn't discriminate or stereotype. Maybe you do.
There you go. Do we have a bit of feedback? Do you have the phone on as well as the computer by chance?
I have the phone, but it's not in
It's not on.
here. Will I move? I'm sorry now. I thought, but
There you go.
the phone. Will I turn off the phone? Is that completely?
I think that's probably a good idea because it may be that we're getting a little bit of feedback, but it's nothing to worry about. Nothing we can't handle. This is like doing a long distance call to Australia. This is part of the course for people who come and listen to my show regularly. We do like to go for that real time, authentic experience. So if we've got anyone out there listening while we're getting ourselves set up here, if you want to let us know you're there, and let's see what. That's much better. There you go. Whatever you did there.
Okay.
So tell us what you've been doing today.
Today I have been teaching Irish online. So Mondays and Tuesdays I do that. A big demand. Lots of Irish Americans want to learn Irish. Not so much the English Irish or the Hiberno Irish. I don't know what you call yourself. Mostly there's a big difference between how proud Irish Americans are. You know, I had a girl on the phone last night. She's like, I'm 1/4 Dutch, I'm 1/4 Irish, I'm 1/4 Labrador. And I'm like, wow, so many bits. And she wants to learn Irish. And then English people, even though you're much closer to Ireland and usually much more generationally closer, you know, it's like, oh, Bible, I'm just a plastic paddy. I'm just a plastic paddy. You know, much more self-deprecating. I think you should be more proud. You're Hiberno English, you could call yourself something like that.
Well, I prefer. Hear me out now. A quick shout out to Kevin Beck, who come along every week to say hello. So you know the idea that humans evolved from monkeys, and CDs were an upgrade on LPs, and memory sticks were an upgrade on computers. Well, we have evolved from the Irish, so we are actually upgrades. Emerald upgrades is what the term that that's the term that I use when I introduce myself. It's always strange.
You're Paddy 2.0.
It's a Paddy upgrade. Yeah, Paddy upgrade. I have a little song I do about it, but you won't see it because you won't do
like
my
a
gig.
Paddy Plus.
Yeah, I am an advanced Irishman. That would be the best bits. I take the best bits. But what's interesting, it's always been interesting, we get this out of the way, is how surprised a lot of Irish people from Ireland are when they meet expats and they are like, but you're English or you're American or you're whatever. Not realizing that our identities weren't given to us by the host nation, but given to us by our parents. So when we say we're Irish, it's not to say that we're from Ireland. It's just to say that we're not English, and there's a slight difference. So, you know,
I guess completely.
I've never been able to support the England football team, and yeah. So a quick message from Dawn McNulty saying
Happy
hi.
St. Patrick's Day to Dawn.
There's a McNulty name there. No, she must know, one of us know. Come on. So, and just to simplify things, the major difference between being English and being Irish is quite a simple one. No Englishman ever answered the phone to her mother, and before she said hello or anything, do you know who's dead? You go, hi mum, who's dead? Mary McLaughlin's dead. Who's she? You never knew her, but she's dead now. That would be a typical conversation starter on my phone in our house.
Very typical, yeah. Or else my dad, like if my dad rings me, it's oh my god, is mommy dead? Like he's rang me by twice ever, and it's like there's a competition called fastest Irish dad on the phone. He just gets off the phone so quickly. He'll get everything said in about 30 seconds. I said it to him once. I was like, why are you so, because I ring mommy a few times a week. Why are you so weird on the phone? And I said, well, Aideen, I was 38 when I got a phone. I was middle-aged. Now, I'm 38. I do not consider myself middle-aged. But anyway, He was a man who was born middle aged, my dad, and he said, I'm just not used to the phone yet. I'm like, okay, now you're 77. It doesn't look like you're going to get used to it anytime soon.
Well,
But,
we've
and I suppose a lot of it is
I lost you there. You lost sound there. But we have the quintessential Englishman in my life, Dominic. Wants to know what his office is doing on TV. So there you go. I'm sure it means something to you. But it's a big thing.
Living here, so I couldn't get. The internet wasn't working properly. That's my boyfriend. The internet wasn't working properly in the house or downstairs, so I had to go to his office. I didn't think I'd get scuppered at all.
He's stalking you. That's what he's doing.
I like it. It's admiration. He'll be on the television tonight on GB News.
Yeah, he'd be on there, bless him. But that's quite an interesting one then, isn't it? Because to me, he's a real quintessential Englishman, very proud and very, not a Neanderthal, but just somebody who knows his history, knows his life, and is now giving refuge, which is a very typical British thing to do.
Yeah, well, I think I'm definitely, that's part of the attraction, because even though I'm Irish, I grew up watching P.G. Wodehouse, Worcester and Jeeves, and all the British films and that classic thing. So to me, he just reads as so English and elegant, and that would definitely be a part of the appeal. I did write a joke, and he did use it in one of his songs. There's something about the English accent that, as an Irish woman, I wanted to just obey yet disobey at the same time. It's perfect for sex. And Pete Murray says, I've got underwear older than 38. I like this guy. So there is, and it's funny, there are differences, and sometimes he does have stereotypes about the Irish. But I have stereotypes about the English, So it is. It's interesting.
But you're allowed in the office.
He thinks I'm mad, and I think.
Well, that's. We can talk about madness in considerable depth a little later on. Tell us about growing up. How many of you are there in the family, brothers and sisters? Where are you?
So I'm the eldest of 3. I was born in 83. Then Maeve was born in 84. And then Aoife was born in 1985. My parents, Mammy is called Mary, Daddy is called Michael. They're going to be fucked if they were going to bring another generation of boring names into the world. So Aoife, Maeve and Aideen. And in 1985, contraception was fully legalized in Ireland. So no more, I'm not saying it's not linked, no more siblings for us. Yeah, so we're Irish triplets, really. There's only a year between me and Maeve.
They just took their time coming. They were a bit slower crawling out. That's what it was. So as a child, were you a funny girl? Were you smart? Were you sassy? What were you like growing up?
I was the eldest. I used to always kind of entertain my sisters, and we used to do little plays, same as every kid, really. We'd make little plays up, we'd write little stories. Now my dad is quite unique in that he was an Irish language teacher, so he was a secondary school teacher, but really devoted to the language. So when I was born, he didn't discuss this with my mother at all, but I was born and he just started speaking in Irish to me, in Gaelic. And we don't live in a Gaelic-speaking part of Ireland. That would be as weird as if you went down the street in Bromley and people were speaking Latin to each other. So it wasn't exactly normal. And my mother thought, this will last a week. Let's see how far he goes with this. Because she's a French teacher. She didn't have much Irish. But he kept speaking to us.
Better.
Yeah, so we had the second language. We almost had the secret code. Now, again, my dad's so devoted to the Irish language. He was one of the founders of this Gael School, this immersion Irish language school in the town. So we all went and spoke Irish there. So he used to have us doing all these little competitions. So we used to have to do these. It was basically just an oral competition where you would go in and an adjudicator would ask you really personal and nosy questions like how old is your dad and stuff, and you would talk about it, and then you'd either do an Irish dance or a poem or a song. And they were like personality competitions. So I loved these, I was pretty good at the singing, I was pretty good at dancing, but there was one thing I could do was make those adults laugh. How did I do that? By telling all my mother and father's secrets. So I used to just give really gossipy little stories. And yeah, so I was never shy of public speaking. I was more shy of, for me, it was harder to talk to people one-on-one than it was to a group. A group was fine. There was some safety in it, but one-on-one, I never really knew what to say for years. I'm fine now and I like talking to people, but until I was in my early 20s, I found one-on-one conversations really tough.
That's an interesting observation. So is your mum Irish and spoke fluent French?
Yeah. So my mother was the local French teacher in the school. In the 70s, they were getting rid of the Latin and they wanted to modernize. So she was the first French teacher in the all boys school.
Well, where was
brilliant
home?
That at 21, you know?
Where were you brought up?
In Kilkenny, in the southeast of Ireland. We have a small farm as well. My dad's from a farm and he has a few acres, which he's always farmed after work. So she, you know, the French teachers are kind of a cut above, though. If you look at school, there's a hierarchy. I always think the business or the commerce teacher, maybe you do economics in English, you know, they're usually a woman, but they married, you know, a businessman that they met in college. So they're a little bit proud of themselves. They, you know, a bit of money. And then the French teacher, you know, she's stories. She was an au pair. She might have had an affair. She always had scarves on.
Everyone had a little fixation with her.
Yeah. So my mother was like that. And my dad was a boring Irish language teacher. He's about 10 years older than her. She said that she didn't have much interest in him at all. And, but this is how things were then, I think, or this is how my mother explained it to me. She said that she had a party in her house. She didn't invite him. She knew he wouldn't come. And then she was on her own with another teacher who said, you know, Michael is quite a nice man. So she said, at the time I was 26, I was very old. So he asked her out. I know, can you imagine? So she said, I was in the staff room on my own. I was typing up, you know, some French notes, and I could just feel his presence coming into the room. And I just thought, oh no, he's going to ask me out. And then he asked me to go to a Dubliners concert.
Gets better. Just gets better.
Yeah, and now at the time you couldn't say no. But then we went to the concert. He was actually very nice. And then we were doing a line. That's what they used to say. We're doing a serious line for 6 weeks. And at Christmas time, then he said to me, Mary, this is getting serious, isn't it? And I said it was. So we knew then we'd be getting married. I'm like, this is the least romantic story I have ever heard.
Really, what are you talking about? That's incredibly romantic. We'll let the people decide. We'll let the people decide if they think that was romantic. That's just a wonderful story. The Dubliners, music bringing them together.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So do you speak French as well?
I do. Je parle un petit français. Not as well as I speak Irish, but I do. Yeah, I was because again, I had the other language, so I was quite confident, and I did it in school. And I worked in a nursing home in France for a bit after I did my leaving cert, my final exams in school.
You must drive Dom nuts. You must drive him up the wall then if you're so international and able to speak. Do you not speak to other languages? Just to.
He speaks French as well, and he speaks Spanish. I think you get the impression that he's kind of like Enoch Powell or something.
No, not at all. Not at all, mate. Not at all. I've known him for 20 years. His Morris dancing character will always be one of my favourites, but I guess he just does that now after 11 o'clock on a Friday night. So it's interesting. So you left school. Were you academic? Did you do well in your leaving certs?
I did. I wasn't as academic as the rest of my family. But what I'm good at doing is, I'm not good at writing, but I was always good at oral stuff or languages, and not great in maths. I mean, I did very well at school, but I had to work hard. I had to work hard as well. But I find it very hard sitting in class. I find it very hard listening. Now, as a teacher now, like I'm shocked. Some teachers were good that we had, but I'm shocked how boring it was. All they had was chalk and talk. There wasn't much group work. There wasn't much kind of kinesthetic learning, which means you're combining actions with words and things like that. Secondary school, like, was so boring. Now, I think things have improved an awful lot. But we had a French class. We didn't even have one poster up on the wall, not one poster like of Napoleon or maybe a French villa or anything. You know,
hang on, wait. Let's go back there for a second. Not one poster of either like a military man or a building. I can see anything
French. Do you know what I mean? Anything French. Yeah, anything French. I remember I went to the boys' school. They used to do German because, you know, German was regarded as more of a masculine language to learn in the 90s. And they had a picture of who did they have? Steffi Graf.
Brilliant. Well, there's not many prominent Germans you could think of off the top of your head.
That are or prominent German speakers that aren't a bit problematic. And say the boys at the time, she was pretty hot. Steffi Graf, sure, stick this poster of Steffi
Get
up.
her on the wall. Get her up on the wall.
Get her on the wall.
So then, what was your first job when you left school?
So when I left school, sure, when I was in school, I used to do lots of different things. I did fruit picking. I cleaned toilets in the caravan park down the road from us. I used to work in the supermarket.
Sorry, go back. Just go back again. You cleaned toilets at the caravan park. Was that a holiday park or were they travellers?
A holiday park.
Okay, we need to just clear that up at the top there.
There was a Nora Valley Park. I'll do a little advert for it.
Yeah, go on.
There was farmers down the road from us, and they were Presbyterian, so we were quite friendly with them. But there was a bit of distance as well, and but Presbyterians they have a lot of get up and go. I'm going to generally stereotype about them, and
that's okay.
They started this caravan park. Oh, they were as tight as a duck's arse, though. I mean, I used to get £1.75, and every minute you counted. You couldn't go over a minute. You couldn't round anything up. They were really, really tight, but they did a good job of it. And I think growing up, because there was a lot of Protestants and Presbyterians in my area, that you'd be feeling a bit self-conscious because Catholics have a little bit. I'm sure it's going now, but we had a little bit of an inferiority complex.
Inferiority
complex towards them.
Okay.
Yeah, my mother would say things like, "Oh, the Protestants are always so clean," and she used to say, Protestants are thin because they eat to live. Catholics live to eat. So we had a wealthy neighbor. She was a member of the Butler family, kind of old landed gentry. But when we started off, like, we would never go into their house, and they used to have parties and we'd never be invited. And they used to have about 5 workmen working from the huge, gorgeous farm. But bit by bit, they didn't mind their money, or they weren't good at managing the farm. And now the son, who's maybe 10 years older than me, would be out, he went to private boarding school. He'd be out pulling the stones out of the ground. And my dad and mother kind of rose up a bit in society. They came down. So now they were all great mates, There
you go. And you tell Dominic, that's the European Union did that. You tell him that from me. That's what did it. That's what equalised it. And then where did the desire to do comedy come from?
So as a teenager then, I lived in Kilkenny, which is in the southeast of Ireland, and there's a festival there called the Kilkenny Cats Laugh Festival. I think we discussed it before. Yeah. So I would volunteer for that. Me and my sisters, Aoife and Maeve, we used to love it because they used us because all we did was lay out chairs and put people to sitting, and somebody might say, Ard O'Hanlon needs an apple, get him an apple, and you go to the shop and do all of this.
What? Why would he need an apple?
I don't know. But he didn't. I mean, he was very nice. He wasn't demanding that I give him the apple. It was the boss. So, but I got to see Dylan Moore, and I got to see Bill Bailey. I got to see Tommy Tiernan, Louis C.K., who they didn't like in Kilkenny at all, actually. Yeah. Mark Maron, again, they didn't really like that kind of chutzpah Jewish humor. Didn't really suit them. So I got to see all these really good acts. And like, when you're a punter, the first time you see comedy, you're kind of assuming that the comedian is just doing it extempore out of his mind. Yeah. But actually then and even somebody like Dara O'Brien, who does loads of crowd interaction. Oh,
you've got a fan there. Kev Harrison could listen to your voice all night. He loves the accent. Yeah, mate, this is her on her best behaviour. I don't know if you're angry Aideen. I don't think it's not as sexy when they're yelling at you. You slisky house.
When did you see me angry? Although now I am getting a bit angry. Because you're accusing me of being angry. I don't know. I thought our interactions were always very polite, but maybe I did something in past life too.
I see through it, mate. I see through this whole kind of. Oh, right. Actually, no. I did you a disservice there. That wasn't Kev that made that comment at all. Him and his beautiful, lovely wife, they share a Facebook page. So it's actually. It was Beck. Yeah,
that's
so
fine.
Women supporting women.
It is.
Another strong woman giving respect to another strong woman. There you go. When did you come to England? What made you decide to cross the water?
So I was doing comedy a little bit in Ireland, and I just thought it's doing comedy in Ireland. I mean, everyone thinks it must be brilliant, and it is. But the population of the Republic is less than 5 million. You've got 6 million on the whole island. So doing comedy in Ireland would be like limiting yourself to doing comedy in Manchester.
Yeah.
So unless you're on the TV or something, and then even if you are, a lot of them will still have a TV program and then they go over to England anyway. It seemed like a better thing. There weren't that many open mics in Ireland when I started. There was a small pool of gigs. There was a small pool of comedians. And I just thought a lot of people had gone over. I thought, feck it, I'll go and I'll try my hand at it.
And where did you find your first stop off? Where did you live?
So I again, so expensive. So I got a job in a school in Fulham. I thought Fulham is beautiful. I was delighted myself. But the school was I didn't know about Ofsted. We don't have Ofsted in Ireland. Like it's like a creepy TripAdvisor for schools. Like, so this school was special measures rated, and we were under so much pressure. Every day there'd be inspectors, teachers were changing, all of this. And then I couldn't afford to live in Fulham. I did for a little bit. I paid £450 a month to share a room with a Japanese teenager I'd never met before. Probably some men's fantasies, but not mine. And I mean, there was no kitchen in this house. You just had a little microwave, and then you brought your food into your room and sat down. So that was on, but it was on the Wandsworth Bridge Road. So I took a big nosedive in kind of standard of living. And the work in Ireland, the school I was in was lovely and friendly. And in England, then the school was really difficult. It was just, the parents were angry. Parents were leaving. The teachers were leaving. So by my second year in the school, I was the second longest running teacher.
Wow.
Just me and one other woman had been there for more than a year. So there was a bad atmosphere. Now, part of that was me just gigging all the time, so I wasn't as focused on career and getting better work. I didn't think of it. And then even if there was a cake sale or something, like a lot of the parents, you know, didn't have the money or the interest, you know, 50p, we had one last year, you know, it was difficult. But I remember there was one woman, and she was a parent, and she'd always very well dressed, very elegant looking. She'd always have designer clothes. Her kids were always well presented too. And if there was a cake sale, she would open her bag and she'd just give you wads of pound notes or fivers, tenors, 20s. And I couldn't figure out how she was doing this. And it just didn't fit in with the general population of the school. And then the other girl who was there longer than me, the other teacher said, you know, she's prostitute. And I went, okay, maybe I should do that. We are killing ourselves teaching. Everybody is exhausted. This woman has got something figured out.
She's cracked it.
She's cracked something anyway. So I talk about this in my new show. So having seen her, I didn't quite think I was prostitute material. You know, I thought maybe I'm not bad looking, but not good looking enough to be that. But I've got plenty of personality. So I went.
Yeah, I think that you've probably watched Pretty Woman and got the wrong end of the whole prostitution game. I think maybe at that end, looks and the rest of it may be important. But from my limited knowledge of this, and if anyone's listening has got more experience in these sort of things, I don't really think personality and looks are the main attraction for the punters, or what are they called, the Toms or
the Johns.
Again, I would rather not commit myself to either denying, or I would never pay. I'm too mean. That's my. I have no moral objection to prostitution, but I'll never pay. If it's free, I'll have a relationship with a woman of the night. But yeah, I'm not paying.
Yeah,
like my mum would go, "Don't waste your money on prostitutes." All right, mum.
Would she say that? That's funny.
Oh God, yeah. My mum would be, when we'd go out, she'd go, "No, make sure when you're out, if you can't meet a girl, don't waste your money on a prostitute.
Okay.
Come home and entertain yourself."
Entertain yourself. That's so funny.
Blessed be. And then, where was your first gig in London?
Okay, so my first gig in London, I think in Clapham Junction or somewhere, that a Jamaican themed restaurant. The guy who ran it actually went on to be a huge it's not Instagram, it was before Instagram, Vine star. And then he was cancelled. Dapper Laughs.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he was, and then I met Lenny Sherman. He was running that there as well. The two of them were running it, and he's
my brother, Lenny, my brother.
Is he your brother?
He's my brother, Len, big Len.
Yeah, so he was great.
Lovely guy.
Very nice man. Very, very nice man. So I did all of that, and
And were you
then
okay with cultural references? Because although people think British people tend to think Irish people and British people are the same, but there are a lot of little
there's a
nuances.
lot of little nuances, like, people, everybody was talking about nectar cards when I
Yeah,
came over. I'm like, what is this nectar card? Certain things on TV I haven't seen, certain
yeah,
famous people, like, I don't know who they are. And geography is the worst one for me. History I'm pretty good at because I like history, but I've booked so many gigs that are so far away, or gone to the wrong town once or twice, because I know where is Whitehaven, where is that Buxton or Burton. I'm okay on it now, but yeah,
okay,
there are a lot of little differences, and I think English people expect us to know everything about their culture, which we do ish, but not everything.
yeah,
But then you wouldn't know anything like you would because you're Irish English. But things like we have different exams, we don't have NHS. A lot of people think that Ireland is part of the UK. Some of it is,
yeah,
most of it isn't. Why is that? Why can't people say daft stuff to me like, why can't Ulster be its own country? And I'm like, no, that's the
yeah,
worst idea ever. That would
yeah.
be
No,
like, you have two kids that hate each other, and instead of separating them, you throw them into the conservatory together and let them rip the shit out of each other. It's
yeah,
not. but again, I was shocked as well how this education system in England is quite different. The
yeah,
history is very skimpy what you learn. Like, for instance, in year 4, you'll do 6 weeks about the Egyptians.
yeah,
You'll do it to death. We'll sing Walk Like Egyptian in music,
yeah.
art. We'll study pyramids and maths. They hammer the feckin' Egyptians home. And like, maybe just do a page on each country you colonized, or,
Yeah,
inform more.
there's
I
not
guess
really.
what it is, because it's
uh,
trying to avoid the controversy in the classroom.
Yeah, it could get awkward. It could
It
get
could,
awkward.
you know
Let
what?
me just let me just stop you there for a second and just let people who are tuning in listen know that I am here with the Green Queen. I've called you, Aideen McQueen, one of the funniest performers currently working on the UK comedy circuit. If you want to find out more about her, go to Mirth Control Comedy, which is where there's a lot of information. Quick mention to our
Instagram
awesome
is the
as
place, and
Yeah, but
Facebook.
Instagram, yeah. But
Instagram,
I've got
Twitter.
people who listen to me. They're old people. They don't do all that social media stuff. But a quick message mention to WJ Group, the UK's leading road marketing and highway maintenance company, who are our show sponsors. And their motto is "Think Exceptional," which is what we try to do. There is something hugely ironic in me doing a show sponsored by a road marking company, given that all my uncles and my dad and that work for Murphy's and McAlpines, digging the rolls and looking for gold. So, Aidan, one of the things that's always struck me as bizarre is this notion of Ireland as this sweet, happy place where everyone goes, Tura, Lura, Lura, top of the morning here. And then they go over there and they say the reality is that, in my experience, most of certainly the cities in Ireland would be more dangerous than the roughest cities in England. And it confuses the heck out of people the first time they go to Dublin and go left instead of right and end up in Ballymun or Ballyfermot, somewhere like that. And do you not find
Yeah.
then that kind of patronising attitude, did that not grate on your nerves, or did you have to explain that no, we're not all Catholic virgins who don't
Yeah,
smoke, take drugs,
there's a bit of an old-fashioned attitude, all right. Yeah, but I think that's changing a lot because there's so many people over here. I mean, there's been a huge change since my lifetime. Like
yeah,
in the 90s, the people were very religious. Everybody went to church. Our primary
yep,
school teacher used to check if we'd been to church and then tell us, you have to go to church, or else if you die, you're going to hell. Like,
yeah,
literally, it was like, there was a lot of shame, a lot of guilt. I remember when I was in year 3, so it would have been about 8. We were doing about the sacraments, and one
mm.
girl, Pamela, and she said that she'd been at her mother's wedding,
Oh
and
dear,
my teacher said, "No, that's impossible. You couldn't have been." And she's like, "But I have photos." And the whole class turned on her. We all bullied her. And I went home
nice,
to ask my mother, and my mother said she made it up as well. But maybe
brilliant,
next year, the year after, she'd explain the story to me. And like, poor Pamela, like, she literally had her existence denied by a teacher who was a lovely teacher, and the whole class, and my mother. So
brilliant.
it's
But she was called Pamela, so that's not an Irish name, is it? It's a tart's
yeah,
name, Pamela,
that's it
isn't it? So
exactly.
that's an Essex name, really, isn't it? Pamela. God.
Pamela vibe. Yeah, it is.
So one of my funniest experiences was going to America and explaining to American Irish people that I was not Irish, but they wouldn't have it. I'll go, no, I'm British. I was born. Yeah, but your family, right? I'm like, yeah, my family are Irish. We spent a lot of our time growing up going to Ireland. I had an Irish accent until I was about 7.
Yeah, that's
But
when
they
the
wouldn't.
accent changes at that
Yeah,
age. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you used to talk like that, Mammy. Can I have a drink of water? I had one of those. There's still some tapes, audio recordings of me, where I'm like, all right there, Mammy. I want to go out and play now, but it's raining. Is that all right? So first time when I went to America and I met these proud American Irish people who were like, oh yeah, but you must be so hard for you, yeah, because you're living in like the enemy. You're from a country that occupies the land of your fathers. And
Yeah.
I got so fed up, I decided to just play along with it and go, yeah, that's right. And one of
Yeah.
the guys, he was going to go to Belfast for his first ever trip to Ireland. And I said, okay, yeah, that's nice. And he goes, but I want to learn some Gaelic. I said, I'll teach Gaelic, mate. You buy me beers, I'll teach Gaelic all night. And I taught him hello, which was all right. He goes, really? All right? I said, yeah, that's it. I thought it was like D or something. I went, no, that's old Gaelic. There's old Gaelic and new Gaelic. All right? And I basically taught him Cockney rhyming slang to convince him that it was
Oh
Gaelic.
my God, that's so
Just,
funny.
I would love the idea of him walking into a Republican bar somewhere in the Isle of Doyle and going, all right?
Oh,
Where's
wow.
your apples and pears, man? But it's whole kind of nostalgic hankering for something that you have no experience. It's not your life, is it?
No, it's not my life. I don't feel that occupied. I mean, I did feel a difference between in my area, the Protestants who were the Anglo-Irish, and
Yeah.
then me. But that was the kind of, because the part of Kilkenny I lived in just happened to have a good few of them, very good land. So it was, and so I did feel that. Yeah, but it is a different. I suppose it's like Welsh people. I'm so sorry, my
That's okay.
computer, the battery
Not,
is going down.
it's not a problem. Are you able to save it?
I am. Do you mind if I just go and get
You go and I will. Yeah, not a problem. I can talk to the people then. So 18 from Kilkenny, just talking about being Irish. This is St. Patrick's Week. If you've got anyone out there who wants to chip in, make a comment, or let us know that you're there listening, then please do. If you don't, then don't. Just don't do it. But one of the great things about being from the Irish community is that we are a big community, and it's always lovely when friends of mine would come to an event or a do and just see the kind of the fun that we have, the crack that we have. And I've always thought it kind of sad that my English friends don't seem to have the same experiences. Like St. George's Day is just not celebrated. It just doesn't seem to be. So if anyone's got some ideas out there about how we can get St. George's Day recognised and turned into a big hoolie, then please do let us know in the comments box, and we will have a special St. George's show with, I'll get Jeff Innocent, hopefully, or someone who comes across as, or even Dom Frisbee, as someone who comes across as proud, out there, loud Englishman. But it's interesting for me because when we were growing up, when we'd go to Ireland, so I tell people I was brought up in Ireland in the 1950s because that's when my parents left. So that's the island I grew up in.
Parents came over in the 50s, did they?
They come over in 59. They come over in 59. And then where it was interesting was that when I'd have friends from Ireland who'd come to our house, they would be beside themselves, thinking this is more Irish than our house is. My mum's view was that our house was like the Irish embassy. It may not necessarily be on Irish soil, but it was Irish territory, which was very confusing, I can tell you, for a boy growing up on a council estate in East End of London, looking and sounding like this. So I don't know if anyone else has had a similar experience. Steve Edgerton suggesting Jeff Innocent would be a good chat. Steve, let us know, mate. Are you proud to be English? Do you identify as English or British? Would you think that maybe it's time for St. George's Day to get the same sort of prominence that St. David's, St. Andrews and all the other days get? Or do you think, nah, mate, we know we're English. We just get up in the morning, walk down the street, and our pride comes from the fact that, we are what we are. It must be kind of annoying, I would think, for a lot of people when you see all everyone else celebrating their national days and their cultural days, but it's just so much harder for, like I say, for English people. So do let us know what you think. Yeah, you're right, mate. You're having a little bit of a kerfuffle there. Are we all plugged in and zoomed up? And you're muted now. For some reason, you're not talking. So let's see if we can help you with that.
I'm unmuted now. I'm
There you
sorry.
go.
I was.
Anyway, that's okay. If you
I
get
think
bored, just off you go. Just
my
it's a very very Irish thing. There's a better party going on next door, and off you went.
absolute rubbish. I was struggling. I got as I was sticking in my charger, it broke in my hand,
Brilliant.
and I panicked.
Brilliant.
So it was just tense there. That I'm glad you were able to do a bit of a monologue. But it's true. I remember coming to England and teaching, and we had a festival or a harvest thing to do, and there was Union Jacks everywhere, and I remember being like, oh my god, Union Jacks.
Yeah.
And then I had to go, relax, it's their flag, they're allowed to celebrate being English,
So I still have that feeling when I see Union Jacks, because it's like I explained before you came on this morning. I did an interview with a psychotherapist who has a show, and I was explaining to them about how as a child I was raised to have a dislike and a distrust of white English people. So we identified more with the black and Asian communities than we did with my missus thinks it's hilarious. It's just, we had a party, we called it the Tash Jubilee, because Tasha, her birthday fell on the Queen's Jubilee, and we decorated the house with Union Jacks with her face on, and my mum wouldn't come in the house. She sat in the garden with a tricolour.
No way.
I'm not kidding you. And people going, there's a little group of Irish women out in your garden with flags on it. They won't come in while the Union Jacks are there. That is like garlic to a vampire. And he wouldn't do it. Wouldn't have it. It's just bizarre. It's but the difference was when my cousins would come to England, they could just wow the women. Hello, how's it going? Can I get you a drink? Like, would you like? And I'd go over there and go, all right, darling. Go on, back off. And there was nothing exotic about. So you said earlier about Dom's accent, there was nothing sexy about me going, I'm going to give you a right good seeing to you later, babes. Do you know, is that kind of, there's a real difference in that? But
everybody is exotic somewhere. I was in the Poundland or the Pound shop in Spain a few years ago, and they had a perfume called Mr. Birmingham. And I just thought, what does that smell of?
Some genius marketing expert has gone with Carlos. We need a brand. We need
Senor Birmingham. Yeah. So everybody's exotic. I mean, in England now, or in America, they'd love your accent. Oh my God, you're British.
They get me to say chitty chitty bang bang a lot.
Do they?
Hey, John, say that chitty chitty thing. Like, okay.
You're American. You're really good at accents. Do you do the American accent? You said it's very good.
Because, like as we said before, because for me, I had a real identity crisis growing up because I didn't feel part of either community, and
a lot of people say that.
Learned to mimic the accents of the people around me. So
that's interesting. Yeah.
You just
I got some unsolicited advice from a man once who told me that if you're going to employ somebody, I don't know what he was thinking for me, but if you're going to employ somebody, don't employ Irish that were born in Ireland or non-Irish, but don't employ the kids of an Irish person, because they don't know where they are. They're in between two worlds. They won't like you because you're Paddy and you remind them of mommy and daddy, but you're not. They won't. I don't know. And I was like, he must have had some bad experiences, or that they didn't fall in line with what he wanted. But I know it is difficult, and you're raised to be suspicious, and you're raised with a different Irish culture than what is the actual Irish culture. You're raised with the 1950s version, like you said. So why did your parents come over? That was the first wave after the war of people coming over.
Yeah, first wave. I think my mum was 17 when she came over, and she she'd go on for holidays, but she never moved back. And
and where's she from?
They were from Longford, both of them.
Both of them from Longford.
Yeah, and just to give you an example of how people who don't realise, when you meet Irish people, they're invariably from Dublin or Cork, and they've got egos the size of a house. You very rarely meet people from Longford. And when you do, you're related. And I made this point and then found someone I've been friends with was actually my second cousin. And
no
we never
way.
Even knew. Honestly, we never even knew we were cousins.
There's someone at the door there. Do you mind if I open it up?
Listen, let's keep this real. Keep this live. So tonight I am talking to Aideen McQueen. about all things Irish, it being St. Patrick's Day this week. We've had a lovely comment from Steve Edgerton. Kev or Beck, what is it you're agreeing with something, Kev or Beck? I don't know what you're agreeing with, though, but do let me know. So just tell me if anyone out there is going to go along to an Irish event. If you live near Coventry, come down. We're having a great night at the Squirrel. I'll put details on my Facebook page if anyone wants to come along to a great gig. I did ask Aideen to do it, but she had a better offer. They're like that in
I'm sorry, I have to. Can I just check out for a second?
Of course, not a problem.
Okay, great. Thank you so
not
much.
a problem. That's okay.
Okay.
Right. I'll see you in a minute.
I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Don't leave me now. So we, my shows are, come on, if nothing interesting, guests decide to answer the door and then go and do something else. But you know, it's live radio, social media. This is how we roll. So we're talking about Aideen's life and about the differences in cultures. If anyone out there was brought up in a family with a different accent, how did that feel? How did that make you feel? How do you identify? Steve Edgerton, postcode lottery. Good call. Good shout. It is always very, very interesting, especially at this time of year. As I say, St. Patrick's Week is massive. It's just, and you don't have to be Irish or even connected. Just go and have a party and let your hair down. And I think it would be wonderful if we could do the same thing for St. George's Day. But part of the problem is that people's sense of identity is very confused nowadays. People don't know, can they be proud to be English? Can they be proud to be British? And I think, yes, you can, and yes, you should be. But it's not particularly cool to say that at the moment. And it's going to be interesting over the next few years to see how people's sense of self and identity changes, because our mental health is really, really affected by who we are and how we see ourselves. A lot of experts think that childhood experiences stay with you your whole life. And as I've clearly said to Aideen, you know, I had a very confused upbringing. From the sounds of things, you grew up in a very loving and multilingual household. Does that mean that you're going to be more well-balanced than I am? I think it's a toss-up, really. I think we could go head-to-head here. But it's about how those things in early life affect you and then how they give you the coping skills. Because let's be honest, right, Aideen? And I think you know me well enough to know that this is all meant in a positive way. But you've come to another country as an attractive girly, and you've got into a male arena, and you've not only held your own, but you've excelled. So
Thank you so much.
You have. And how do you do? What do you put that down to?
Persistence. I don't think I was ever particularly.
Hang on. Persistence. I thought you'd go, well, you know, talent and study.
No.
Persistence.
There was people who started with me that were better, funnier, and I just kept going. And I made a few mistakes at the start, like I would just be killing myself. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to do that gig, by the way.
That's okay. No one's mentioned it. No one even knows. They've not even noticed it.
I hope you got somebody decent off my list.
I did. I got to Ardla Hanlon. So
did you?
Well, I'll get an apple. No, so tell me then, what is it that made you survive, thrive, prevail, and succeed? What is it about you? Secret?
Yeah, I got addicted to it. I'd been playing music and stuff like that, but there was nothing that I could really get as addicted to as comedy. Because when you go up and you do a song and you're in a band and people clap, but you don't really know how well it went. But comedy is addictive. It's the instant feedback you get. This bit worked, that bit didn't work, etc., etc. And I liked comedians. I liked the lifestyle. I liked being able to do my own thing. Now, I killed myself at the start, doing gigs here, there, and everywhere for nothing. And I kind of copied. I got too into comedy where I was only gigging. I was working really hard. And then I was just, teaching in the daytime. I wasn't watching films. I wasn't reading books. I wasn't watching the news. All my jokes were about stuff that happened at gigs. And I started writing comedy almost to please other comedians who are men rather than for myself. So that's changed a lot recently, whereas I have stuff now and women will come up to me and say, that was brilliant. And I'm kind of like, well, yeah, that's right. Like, because it kind of is for you. So like it'll go well. But like, if I can get a few women my age that are like bursting their holes laughing, that's great.
I think that like I said at the beginning, the fact that we've now got more women and people from other communities on the circuit, it's changed the nature of the whole thing. It's made it less of a bun fight. It's made the audiences happier because men now do material because there's so many women. You get single sex groups going to gigs as well. And so it can only be positive. How did you cope during lockdown then when there were no gigs?
the first bit I moved in with Dominic, and we made a little mini series and stuff, and that was fine. It was fun. I was in with his kids, and then the second lockdown, oh, I didn't cope with it very well at all. I'm not one of these people who's been writing a film script or anything like that during lockdown. I've a very short attention span. I'd love to do that kind of thing. So comedy was it for me. So I found it hard enough now to not be working, and just delighted to be back. And it's going better. I think since something's happened during lockdown with Black Lives Matter and #MeToo, not that they're necessarily associated with lockdown, but that wave has risen
I
up.
agree.
And now they're so much more conscious to give women gigs. So I've been doing better since, getting better gigs and being more in demand.
And then what about when you get the darker moments? How do you get through those?
Well, I have a problem with drinking, so if it gets very dark, sometimes that gets bad, and I have to then rein that back. Go back to basics, go to my AA and stuff like that. I'd love to say exercise and all of that, but no, I've got good friends. My sisters are very good to me, and I'm able to talk about stuff. I've got one sister who she's fantastic. She's almost like psychic. She'll look at you with these beautiful eyes, and she'll just touch your shoulder, and she just has a great empathy. And she's actually training to be a counsellor now. She used to work in politics, but I think she found it a bit fake.
Yeah.
So and then I have another sister who's a doctor, and she's great, for the practical stuff, like getting your morning after pills and all of this kind of stuff. So I'm very lucky with the two of them.
Oh my God, what are you like, woman? Here's the thing, because as an outsider, like I say, you're a success, right? You're on the way to the big time. From what I can see, you've got great management, you've got great work ethic, you're funny, you're talented, you got chops, mate. You got it. And you're then like almost a role model for other, I hate to say it, but for other girls and for other non-white male kind of hetero comedians. And it's me saying it. I'm not a woke PC person.
Yeah.
It's me saying it. But people will see you and go, you know what? She can do that. I can do that. Does that then...
yeah, hopefully. I think so. I mean, I saw great women like Joanne McNally now. She's flying it.
Yeah.
She's brilliant. I saw how hard she worked, and how she's so talented. So yeah, you have to see other people doing stuff that you want to do rather than just doing the usual kind of tropey stuff. But
could you hone that down into like some sort of tip that would help other people about
other comedians or
other humans, just other people?
I think, okay, so let me see. So I suppose when I started off comedy first, I used to go out with a comedian, and I saw how hard he worked. And I saw his male testosterone drive just to do gigs, to email people, to constantly knock on the door. I thought, wow, I have to get me some of that male focus and drive, but then keep my feminine side as well. So there is something about, there's a reason why men are more successful in a lot of ways. There's a reason why there's more male CEOs, because men are mental. Men are mental enough to go and do a gig in Billericay one night for a tenner, and then a gig in Manchester another night for a tenner, and they give petrol money. They will do all this work because they're mental and they have the self-confidence to go, I can do it. So I'm being facetious. They're not actually mental, but like there is a kind of a drive in men that women don't. So I think if I was to give advice to women, is just use male traits that you can in a positive way, but don't abandon your femininity. Don't start then what I did, which is writing material like a man, writing, gross jokes and making the lads at the back laugh, the other comedians, but not really wanting to tell my own stuff. So I think look at what men have and take a bit of inspiration from that. They're not, it's not that men are pushing women down. Men are just pushing themselves forward so much.
Yeah.
Often we mistake that as being pushed down. Like I remember a woman saying to me, she was being ignored in the green room, and she felt that was because she was a woman. I said, no, all of these fuckers are ignoring everyone else as well. They're just focused on their little shit.
Yeah.
Don't take it personally. It's there are a lot of unusual people in comedy as well, and don't
There
take
are
it personally.
there are a lot of frail people, and it's funny again going back to my interview this morning. I put down a lot of what success I've had to women, so I've actually embraced my femininity. I know it
Yeah.
sounds like a hooligan
No, I
saying
can
it,
see
but
that about you.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I get you. You're a
I
good listener. You're
I
interested. Yeah.
I will do that. I guess it's about we can all learn from each other, and
Yeah.
I guess we're not always alone in the battle of life. That's
No.
about all I can say. Where would you see yourself going next? What's the plan?
Oh gosh, I mean, I'd love to be at the stage where I've got my own little fan club and I can do my own tours. But I'm just getting into the decent clubs now, so that's a good step for me. I've got an Edinburgh show written, which I'm honing at the moment. I'll be doing it in the Tron at 10:20 for the month.
Great,
I did it in
great
Leicester,
venue, great
and I've
venue.
got to Birmingham tomorrow. So if that goes well, I'll be delighted.
And of
But
course,
yeah, you have to.
on March the 27th, big gig, big gig.
Yes, yes.
Yes, well, with me. What you like, woman? We're going to Southampton. Me and you.
Okay. My brain is in my diary, Pat. I literally every day, like I only realized that I'm going to Birmingham tomorrow. I was like,
Brilliant.
oh my God, I booked the tickets and everything. Like my brain is in my phone. So I knew we had a gig on the 27th. That's what, but I didn't. That's booked with Marilyn, is it?
That's booked with Marilyn. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, she didn't tell me that you were doing it actually, but it all makes sense now.
It all
Okay,
comes
right.
to me now. Yeah, but we'll have a great time. But until then, just stay safe. Just don't change. Do not change, man. You're a breath of fresh
Neither,
air,
babe.
and you can inspire other people even without realizing it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure spending the last hour with you, and take care.
Thank you so much. You take care as well.
Okay, all the best. That was Aideen McQueen. She's just fascinating. I think she's hilarious. She just makes me laugh. She's just very funny, very smart, sassy, and it's refreshing to see and hear. And what was interesting talking to her though was that it's very rare to speak to someone who's come from a loving, stable sounding background, because most comics tend to be dysfunctional. They have all kinds of issues and all the rest of it. But comics are no different to anybody else. We can all suffer. We can all have a tough time, have a hard time. And it's what we do when we're in those times, how we survive and how we get through it. The problem with modern living is that we don't always take time to see what other people are going through. Excuse me. We don't always make the effort to try to empathize and put ourselves in other people's positions. If you are struggling, if you're having a tough time, you don't have to go through it on your own. Nobody has to. But it's about listening. And we don't just listen with our ears. It's about listening with your hearts as well. You're not on your own in the battle of life. You're not kind of fighting this whole world. It doesn't have to be that hard. But sometimes people make it tougher than it has to be. Through no fault of their own, just through the skills that they were given and the hand that they've been dealt. If you are struggling, I would suggest that you look at the Mind website and Time to Change, because they've got some great resources. But as always, each week, my guests will give a little insight into what works for them. And I'll just pick out a few of the ones that I've really been struck with. Michael Straney, of course, very, very funny. Another Irishman, very, very funny. Don't fixate on things that you can't control. Sol Bernstein talked about life isn't always easy. You've got to battle it out. Wilson Milton talks about sorting out your physical health. Lots of people have lots of different ways to do it, and all this advice and all these tips are on the mensradiostation.com website. Danny's Postill's idea of having cold showers is never going to happen. But I think what Aideen was alluding to quite clearly was about, don't abandon femininity, don't sell out. Just any girls listening to this, don't let a man dictate your life and validate you. And any blokes listening to this, don't think that you can tell a woman how to be, how not to be, what is and what isn't femininity. So being a man, it's about being masculine and being feminine. And I think tonight we've seen a fantastic speaker. We've listened to an absolute great voice. Do keep listening to mensradiostation.com and womensradiostation.com. But above all, keep talking, keep the conversation going, and we'll be back next week. Well, that's the end of another episode of Reading the Signs with me, Comedy John Ryan. We're here every Monday night at 7 p.m. talking with comedians about mental wellness, mental well-being, and just trying to get the conversation going. What we're trying to do is show that it's good to talk, and we're also trying to show that everybody can go through the same experiences. A massive thank you to the WJ Group who sponsored the show, showing their commitment not just to mental well-being, but also to reaching as broad an audience as possible. It's great to be part of the mensradiostation.com family, so do check us out on the website, on social media. We'll be back next Monday. You take care. Stay safe, everybody.